Scooter Braun did acquire Taylor Swift's master recordings in a deal valued around $300 million, and Taylor responded by building a smarter, more profitable version of her own catalog. The story everyone thinks they know is simple: a bitter feud, a surprise sale, and then a pop star re-records out of spite. The reality is more surgical. This was a classic private equity-style play executed through a label acquisition, supercharged by streaming-era incentives and contract clauses, and answered by a counter-move that redirected future cash flows away from the old masters and toward Taylor's version. Most people believe the sale was about personalities, who liked whom, who called whom. But the money told the real story. A label holding company changed hands, and with it, the ownership of Taylor's first 6 albums masters. According to coverage in late June 2019, Big Machine Label Group was sold to Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings, and with that deal came control of the masters that defined an era. On paper, that's ordinary M&A. In pop culture, it was thermonuclear. Here's the contrarian truth that actually explains what happened next. The sale created a brand problem for the original masters. Taylor Swift wasn't just an artist, she was the most effective marketing channel those recordings would ever have. Once her advocacy shifted to the re-recorded versions, the monetization engine moved with her. Per major trade outlets in 2021 and 2023, Taylor's version releases debuted at the top of the charts, instantly establishing a new default for fans and for music supervisors who license songs for film, TV, and ads. The value of a catalog isn't just the songs, it's the future demand, and Taylor rerouted demand. Today we're going to answer 3 questions. What exactly made the $300 million acquisition possible? What were the mechanics that put Taylor's masters in Scooter Braun's hands? Why did the sellers and buyers believe this asset would be a winner in the streaming era? And how did Taylor turn the tables with Taylor's version, changing not just her leverage, but the market for the underlying recordings? Along the way, we'll use dated receipts from industry coverage, a high-level reading of common label contracts, and the lens of entertainment lawyers and licensing executives to map the cash flows, incentives, and pressure points that actually drove the drama. Let's start with the move that looked personal but was really structural. In late June 2019, Big Machine's owners sold the entire company to Ithaca Holdings. This wasn't a one-to-one purchase of Taylor's masters, it was the acquisition of a bundle: label infrastructure, rosters, trademarks, and yes, the masters Taylor recorded under that deal. That distinction matters. It means there was no need to negotiate with Taylor because masters are label property unless a contract says otherwise. That's how the transfer happened in one stroke. Industry reporting at the time pegged the total value near $300 million, a price supported by the exploding valuations of music IP after streaming normalized in the mid-2010s. The headline was shock value. The footnotes were where the leverage sat. Why those masters? Think about the cash flow profile. In streaming, huge, frontlist artists throw off decades of long-tail revenue, especially when they occupy evergreen playlists and cultural moments. Taylor's early albums are precisely that: perennial listening. Add licensing. When a movie or commercial wants a classic Taylor chorus, and the masters can fetch premium fees. In a world of low interest rates and IP shopping sprees, a blockbuster catalog with predictable streams looks like a bond with upside. That's the financial logic behind the purchase. But the sale triggered a brand crisis. Taylor publicly objected, framing the sale as a betrayal and signaling she would use any legal path available to re-record her work once the contractual window opened. According to interviews and her own statements, her focus was twofold: reclaim artistic and financial control, and give fans a clear, ethical on-ramp to support her preferred versions. That's when the chessboard flipped. Here's where the second shock lands. The buyer's flip. Roughly a year and a half after the acquisition, coverage in October 2020 reported that Scooter Braun's company sold Taylor's masters to Shamrock Holdings. On paper, that's a clean exit. In practice, it came with a poison pill. Taylor said she had been informed that Scooter would continue to profit from the masters in some capacity, and she declined to partner with the new owners. Whether or not that ongoing participation ultimately mattered, the effect was unmistakable. Taylor's energy, marketing, and narrative fully pivoted to rebuilding the catalog from the ground up. Now the payout. The re-record clause mattered more than any public statement. Once the clock expired on the original restrictions, Taylor went to work. Fearless, Taylor's version, arrived in April 2021 to immediate chart success. Red, Taylor's version, followed that November, reintroducing a cultural juggernaut ballad with extended storytelling. In July 2023, Speak Now, Taylor's version, refreshed a fan favorite And by late October 2023, 1989, Taylor's version completed a sweep of her most globally dominant era. Each release wasn't just a nostalgia trip, it was a signal to licensors. If you want Taylor's song in your project, the artist endorses the new version. That single preference reweighted the master's future cash flows. Rehook. The masterstroke wasn't just re-recording, it was building a parallel catalog with better economics for the artist. Here's the evidence. When a brand licenses a song, the master owner negotiates the master fee and the publisher negotiates the composition fee. Taylor kept her publishing leverage while steering the master side to her own versions, tightening the loop. Industry trades documented advertisers and shows choosing Taylor's version because it aligned with the artist and avoided fan backlash. That's how a public narrative becomes a pricing lever. The payout is simple. Every time the new version is chosen, the old masters lose a potential dollar and the new ones gain it. Another rehook. If this was a pure feud, it would have burned out. Instead, it scaled because of tour economics. The era's tour wasn't just a concert. It was a multi-year, multi-billion cultural engine that boosted streams across Taylor's catalog. When fans discovered or rediscovered her early work through the tour's setlist and subsequent concert film, the question became which versions they'd loop on streaming. With Taylor on stage repeatedly naming Taylor's version, her own live marketing reinforced what to play on the ride home. Chart data during release weeks and tour legs showed surges for the re-records, and those surges teach algorithms what to recommend next. That's not a feud, that's flywheel design. Rehook. What about the legal side? Could anyone have stopped this? The core of the master's dispute is the contract. Traditionally, labels own masters they fund. Artists can negotiate reversion clauses, ownership carve-outs, or re-record restrictions with specific timelines. Coverage around 2019 through 2021 indicated Taylor's contract allowed re-recording after a set period, which is why the 2021 releases were legally greenlit. The buyer of the original masters inherited those restrictions as they existed. There was no emergency stop button. That's the quiet power of an old clause in a new streaming world. Payout. The most valuable part of the original catalog after the sale wasn't the sound of the songs. It was whether the artist would bless their use. Without that blessing, licensors faced risk. The new master solved that. Rehook. Did the initial $300 million still make sense? From a buyer's perspective in 2019, yes. The catalog was already a cash machine, and the market for music IP was on fire. Even if re-records were a risk, they take time, and the buyer could capture near-term yield, then flip to another investor hungry for stable assets. That's exactly what happened with the subsequent sale to Shamrock. From a seller's perspective, big machines, owners maximize exit value at the crest of a market wave. Their fiduciary incentive wasn't to make everyone happy, it was to monetize the asset. Evidence for the financial logic shows up in the broader catalog craze. Major funds and private equity firms bought song rights across genres during the late 2010s and early 2020s at double-digit multiples of annual revenue, betting on streaming's growth and sync's resilience. Taylor's catalog fit that thesis perfectly. But unlike most artists, Taylor could rebuild the house next door. Payout. The re-records created a new original that keeps paying her and the collaborators who worked on the updated sessions, while the old master's value becomes a function of inertia and legacy licensing, where re-records aren't feasible or desired. Over time, that skews favor toward Taylor's version. Rehook. What about the reputational risk for Scooter Braun? Coverage in 2023 and 2024 noted he was shifting focus to broader ventures, while long-standing management clients reevaluated their relationships. Correlation isn't causation, and in fairness, executives pivot all the time. But the Taylor episode attached a narrative that no PR can fully erase. A star was willing and able to outmaneuver the holder of her masters in public. That's a case study future managers will study for decades. Payout. Reputation aside, the finance worked in the short term: acquire, realize cash flows, exit. But the brand risk lingered. Rehook. Did Taylor's plan cost fans or collaborators? Critics argued that confusion between versions could dilute the cultural weight of the originals. Yet the market's response shows the opposite. The re-records became events. New vault tracks, expanded lore, improved vocals, inviting both nostalgia and novelty. Collaborators on the new sessions got marquee credits, and fans received a moral switch they could flip with a tap. It's hard to argue confusion when the audience is enthusiastically choosing week after week. Payout. The switch was clean because the artist made it easy. Labels often talk about artist development. Taylor used the same principle on her audience's behavior. Re-hook, zoom out to the industry. After Taylor, re-recording clauses got a lot more attention. Newer deals reportedly added longer or stricter re-record restrictions, and artists with leverage prioritized master ownership or joint ventures. The very existence of Taylor's version recalibrated negotiations, especially for stars who can threaten to rebuild their catalogs if mistreated. This is how a single saga becomes policy. Payout: artists don't need to win every fight, they just need to show one decisive path to independence that the market rewards. Taylor did. So, what exactly enabled the original transfer? A standard label sale where masters follow the company, not the artist. Why did the investors want in? Predictable, compounding cash flows and a streaming and licensing boom. How did Taylor turn it around? By exercising a re-record right to build a new, endorsed asset that siphons demand from the old one while deepening her brand. If you strip away the gossip, that's the elegant math. And it's still unfolding. Every time a sports montage opts for a Taylor's version, every time a showrunner picks the re-record for a needle drop, and every time a new fan begins their Taylor journey in 2025 and beyond, the weights on the scale shift a little more. That's the real legacy play, to make the future choose you. Here's the final takeaway. The ultimate betrayal wasn't just the sale, it was the assumption that the artist was a passive passenger on a financial vehicle. Taylor's genius was refusing the passenger seat and building a better car. If you want the deeper patterns behind celebrity power plays, this channel tracks the filings, the timelines, and the money. For the full playbook on how A-list stars flip leverage into ownership, tap into our Fresh Celebrity Tea playlist next. We've got the receipts and the context that make the headlines make sense.